Are you prepared to transform your well-being? I'm Sanjay Raja. My mission is to challenge our perspectives on food, fitness, and overall health. I own a successful nutrition and fitness business based in Orlando, Florida. And through this experience, I've learned that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. From creating delicious and healthy recipes, to training elite athletes, and even writing the book, The Food Talk. I've accumulated a wealth of knowledge, but here's the exciting part. There's always more to discover. That's why I'm embarking on a journey to connect with leading experts, unveiling the secrets to a happier, healthier life. Together, let's explore innovative ways to enhance our well-being. This is Recipe for Wellness. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of our podcast, Recipe for Wellness, based on our TV show. So we're in season 3, and I think we are recording episode 6. This is crazy. We're in it. And the good news about our show is that we get to really talk to interesting people, and we have one such guest today. So everybody knows my background, which is I started out in the medical field and worked with a lot of different companies in surgical device, surgical wound care. Worked with a lot of doctors in the outpatient wound care clinics. So when I heard about her product and I heard about her work, I was really intrigued because there is a big void within the market space for patients to get a product that's very plant-based. And I think this is really unique. So we did a little bit of research. It falls in line with what we are trying to push, which is a more holistic approach to health and wellness. And I heard a little bit about her story, and I think it makes her for a great segment. So without further ado, I am so happy to introduce Jodi Scott. She is the CEO of her company, Green Goo. Is that correct?
That is.
Okay. Great name for the product, by the way. So let's talk about you, which is tell us about your background. I love talking to people who kind of built something from the ground up. Me being an entrepreneur, you clearly have been successful at what you've been doing, and it's it shows more about positivity, health, and wellness. And so I think your journey would make for inspiration for a lot of folks. So tell us a little bit about you. What's the journey been like so far, and what was the inspiration behind you developing this product?
Well, first, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Absolutely.
And it's been a wild ride. I appreciate your roots and some of those parallels. So, I got my master's in health psychology, was pre-med, specialized
Mm,
in psychoneuroimmunology, and was training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model. So what
wow.
does that mean? I
Yeah.
was incredibly passionate about advancing our wellness journey. And as it applies to the medical field, really having physicians not just look at the patient as here's something that we're going to prescribe, but what else can we learn about the patient to really take that wellness journey further so that we can truly make a difference. And psychoneuroimmunology is that relationship of the mind, the body, the immune system, the nervous
Mm.
system, and your psychology and how that's all woven in together. And so Green Goo was born through my sisters and
So can I
herbalists.
stop you right there
Mhm.
just for real quick?
Please.
Because you just intrigued me a little bit more. Because is it true? And I always tell people, because you're get the perfect person to talk to about this now, which is there is the psychosomatic effect, right? Which is what you think basically manifests in how you feel, right? So you're telling me there is, and I always believed it, but some people will call me crazy, but there is a direct correlation between the two, which in your thoughts and your feelings that your brain derives then manifests in your body. Is that correct?
And I would argue that there's even more than just a correlation. Now, today, we are seeing the data to support that, where a certain response will increase cortisol, uh,
Hmm.
stimulate the immune system, create inflammation, which then impacts clarity, impacts sometimes depression, anxiety, and so
Hmm.
forth. And so we're seeing a real systematic change with the relationship between your mindset and your nervous system. And what's really interesting too is your nervous system and your skin were born from the same embryonic tissue. And so for
Yeah.
me, being in the skincare industry and really leaning into learning more about how our skin is in relationship with our nervous system and then therefore mindset has been a really incredible journey, and one that I think that will help further advance our knowledge and our ability to interact with our bodies in a way that's going to improve our longevity, our wellness, and our happiness in general.
Yeah, sorry, I just said sidetracked. I always call this podcast a podcast with no rules because we always get sidetracked, but we bring back in because, we think a million thoughts a minute. And, it's like I wanted to make sure we hit that point because it is so true. And that is one of the things we try to preach and not really preach, but really show to our audience is that the first thing you could do in the morning is just wake up with a positive mindset. And that's half the battle right there, right? And one of the quotes I live by is that we can select our thoughts like we select our clothes, and that's a powerful tool. You can choose to be happy or choose not to be happy, and then your day will follow accordingly. So, um,
Ooh, I got to add to this. And I would
yeah,
even add the inversion to that, which is you can participate in nervous system hacks, if you will, or habits that will help build that positive mindset so they can work hand in hand. So some of those, when you say wake up and I'm going to take the perspective of being happy and having more joy. Well, ways that you can enhance that is put your feet on the ground, really feel your feet, have a presence exercise, watch the
mm,
horizon as the sun comes up. Don't go straight to your phone and start
yes,
scrolling, which really depletes and hijacks your nervous system, which then impacts your ability to find that joy. And so there's some fun ways that you can stack some cool nervous system habits throughout the day that will help
yeah.
you enhance that positive mindset.
All right, sorry to hijack hijack what you
I
were
love
saying.
this
So sorry.
stuff. It's so
All
good. So
right.
good.
But no, please continue with kind of the journey you've been on in developing this product that's helped so many people. And what was the inspiration behind it? And what's the next step in the journey for you?
Yeah, so my sister's an herbalist and a midwife, and when she was in herb school was about the same time that I was pregnant. And what I had recognized, we were living a very clean life. We were choosing healthy foods, we were reading the labels on our personal care products. But when we opened up our first aid cabinet, it was all the exceptions. One-time use, no sustainability, lots of
Yeah.
paraben, petroleum, phthalates,
Hmm.
forever chemicals. And I was like, I don't want to use this while I'm pregnant. Matter of fact, I don't want to use this on my daughter. Why do we think that this is the only solution? So we started leaning in there and asking questions, and we found that we were not alone. The natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told these traditional chemical laden OTC products were the only products that could get the job done. If it didn't
Right.
burn, if it didn't sting, if it wasn't going to dry it out, it wasn't doing its job. And then, even more interesting was to discover that chronic skin conditions are at an all-time high. And the conventional consumer was also dissatisfied with what was available, didn't care about the ingredients, but found it inconvenient that you can only use for 7 to 10 days. If symptoms persist, go see your physician. So we thought, what if we can make a solution that's superior in efficacy and, oh, also, by the way, plant-based and
Mm.
sustainable, and bring that so that we are servicing not just the natural consumer, but the conventional consumer. And so Green Goo was born.
So we keep hearing the world's greatest pharmacy is in our forests, Amazon rainforest. It's in biodiversity of plants and trees. It's funny. I watched some of these older shows, like Andrew Zimmern had a show called Weird Bizarre Foods. I don't know if you ever seen that show. He went down to the Amazon and he was sampling some crazy food out there, which he does. And then he got injured, and then the guy just comes up to a plant and says, "This is I forget what he called, dragon's blood." It comes out red, and then they wipe it on his skin, turns white. It was a natural, just like cream to stop the bleeding. So you know, I just don't understand why we haven't embraced more of a plant-based type of product. So that's why this really piqued our interest. Um, and you're right, we're conditioned. We are conditioned to believe that synthetics, things that have a short shelf life, are the way to go. because we've just been taught that for so many years. And you being in the medical field, so I remember in surgery, I'd be with the team and we would do hip and knee surgeries. I used to sell medical devices. And before the patient got cut open, they probably used about 30 different products that were synthetic just to prep the patient, right? And then after the surgery was done, then I got a little bit closer to being more natural medicine because now the new sutures integrate into the body, which is great. But before you had sutures that would have to be removed over time, right? So there was always the chance of rejection and infection. So there was always that chance out there. So you guys saw a need, filled that void with that need, and then how did the industry that you're in react to your product, which is so radically different from everything else out there?
Oh, there's so much there. First, I want to rewind for a moment and just take a moment to recognize and say plants have been around longer than we have. And most of modern medicine has been inspired by plants. And
Hmm.
something that I love about plants is they do such a beautiful job of modulating and inspiring, if you will, the body to do what it already does rather than getting in the way. And
Yeah.
we have a saying, if you can't eat it, you shouldn't wear it. So I love that food for your skin and that he's out in the Amazon and finding these plants. Um, Now, when we started, this was 15 plus years ago. There was
Oh,
no
wow.
phrase called plant-based. So when
Yeah.
I went to a national pharmacy buyer and I said, I have a plant-based Neosporin alternative, he just about fell out of his chair. He's like, those two words do not go in the same sentence. I don't even understand what you're saying. And so we were
Yeah.
very much forging the path. I'm like, just take it home and try it and you will see. And
Uh-huh.
today, of course, that plant-based, that term can be used in a wide variety of ways. And very much there is sort of that greenwashing around plant-based too, in terms of what plants are people actually getting. And I, with respect, understand why consumers question the efficacy of plants because what they have traditionally been exposed to has not been the plant in its fullest, most medicinal form. So something that
Hmm.
we still do today is when we started Green Goo, we were growing the herbs in our backyard. We had bees. We're drying the herbs on old screen door racks. People are walking by our house going, what are these people doing? And our
Yeah.
kitchen turned into a production facility and we were extracting from these plants. Matter of fact, our kitchen was so stacked with production that we had to take our camping equipment and build an outdoor kitchen for us to cook our food because our kitchen was so busy. But the reason these formulas work is not just the herbs that we select to choose and how those herbs work with each other, but it's also protecting the integrity of the plant through that medicinal extraction process so we can yield the highest amount of those medicinal properties from those plants and put them in good carrier oils. So you may have been exposed to some plant properties, maybe you're getting a fraction of it, and then it's mixed with a petroleum base. So it's sitting on the surface of your skin and you're not getting that semi-permeable membrane absorption. And so
Yeah.
today, what we've done is we have preserved that process. So we still bring the plants to our manufacturing facility, take it through that extraction process, and then those unique oils go into these formulas rather than getting some kind of synthetic concentrate on the market that may not be as medicinal or has other ingredients in there that may conflict with its efficacy.
Well, we see that in the marketplace today. Like I saw in the grocery store and a couple other places, instead of detergent, you can buy these plant-based sheets, throw them in your washer, and they dissolve and form suds and soap and all this stuff. So we're seeing more and more of that coming out. And of course, hemp-based clothing, we've seen that for many years, and it's catching on more and more. So you got this great idea for this product. It comes out, you're filling a need. It's more holistic, more naturopathic. What did the marketplace do? How did it react to it?
Well, we were out there again, just forging the path, meeting with buyers, putting
Hmm.
it in front of customers. Matter of fact, it was John Hopkins who came to us and said, what are you guys doing over here? We have all these patients coming to us saying that you're helping them with eczema and psoriasis. Who are you?
Yeah.
And it was really neat that they started supporting us and spreading the word that Green Goo had a solution for eczema and psoriasis. but it wasn't easy. And we had to continue to show the efficacy and the proof in the formulas.
Hmm.
But it grew very quickly, which was interesting. We went from a very small amount of retailers to over 150,000 points of distribution in less than 5 years. And it really
Wow.
required being on the road, and putting it in front of folks. And I think even then, it was still early for the plant-based, what we call today the plant-based renaissance. And I would say the
Hmm.
shift really happened in the marketplace. You brought up the hemp industry. And I was at a trade show, and it was right after the Farm Bill was passed. And they did a presentation for all of these retailers to get a better understanding of how they could be in compliance and bring in hemp-based products. And so they talked very much about the extraction process and the medicinal component. So when the buyers came back to my booth, I said, okay, you saw that presentation in lunch. All right, so just like hemp is being processed, that's what we're doing at Green Goo. We just don't have hemp in our products,
Yeah.
in our formulas. But it was like all of a sudden the light bulb went on in terms of,
Hmm.
oh, plants can have these properties, and this is a process by which it can happen. Now I understand Green Goo.
So the light went off finally, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm just being honest. I never heard about the product until it was brought to my attention. You go to Walgreens, you go to CVS, and I never really saw it, but I wasn't really looking for those products at the time, anyways. But that being said, now, have you interacted a lot with the medical community in terms of doctors, dermatologists, people who specialize in this field, and what's their reaction been so far?
It's been incredibly grassroots, and it's really been the patients and the customers taking it to their physician and saying, this is what has been working for me. And then they reach out to us and say, okay, we want to learn more and understand. And hey, can we have samples to give to our patients? As a family grown business, it's not something that we've been able to do in that way. That would be if we had funding, that would be one of the first things that I would love to be able to do, would be able to partner more with medical practitioners and be
Yeah.
able to service customers and patients in that way because it's very much been word of mouth.
Okay. Well, see, that's the beauty of what we're trying to do here with the show is that we try to give information to the audience that they normally wouldn't hear outside of going to their doctors and prescriptions and all this stuff, right? Which we're trying to get away from because, as you mentioned, the pharmacy's out there. It's based in plants, and now with plant-based diet, we know all the benefits of it. And finally, there's a product out here that is really tapping into the power of the plant. So talk to me about, go ahead, please.
I was going to say what's neat about that too is our customers coming to us and teaching us new ways that we can use our products.
Ah,
And we
there you
had
go.
one not too long ago that was Jane Doe number one, and she was pulled from the World Trade Center, first person pulled
Mm,
from the World Trade Center and sustained horrible injuries and eventually became addicted to opioids. And she reached out to say that our pain relief formula was the only solution that was helping her through her opioid withdrawal. And so she was salving up, we call it butter up, as she would go through her lower doses. And she would be going through very much what's like seizures as she's going
mm.
through those dose reductions. And it would help calm her body and help her with the muscle recovery. And there's two things that were interesting about that was that one, we never thought of it using it in that way. And then two, for me in that psychoneuroimmunology background, thinking about the interaction of the skin and how that can help. Because she was like, even from a mindset standpoint, this is helping me shift as my muscles are relaxing. And when you think about that pain feedback loop, it really
Hmm.
challenges what we know today, which is we sort of suppress the pain feedback loop. And so we have a new thing where we talk about buttering up and using the salves now from head to toe to really calm inflammation. And it was that customer that helped us look at our products from a different lens to be able to service more people.
Yeah, so a lot of times that's the feedback you get, which is I never thought of it this way, and people are very very smart because they'll try to, figure out new ways to utilize products on the market. And I've heard so many different products being used in so many ways that nobody ever thought about, right? So I totally get it. And that's great feedback from somebody who's been using it. So talk to me more about kind of your journey here, which is, was this the path you chose? Was this something, I mean, it sounds like you saw a problem and said, hey, we have a better way of doing things. And so it led to this whole career path. Like you, I did go to, I took the MCAT, I was pre-med, but the day before I was supposed to go to medical, or the week before I was supposed to go to medical school, I tapped out and I said, you know what? I'm not doing it for the right reasons. So instead, I went this whole other journey, probably lived 40 different careers, and it prepared me for what I'm doing now. It's a running joke in the household, and that is I'm on career number 67 right now. So who knows what's going to happen next? But that being said, are you, did you see yourself going down this path? Because now you're wearing so many hats. You're wearing the hats of an entrepreneur, a CEO, somebody who's providing something that help patients. Was this kind of what you envisioned for yourself down the road?
So the plot thickens, and I really appreciate your journey. And no, I didn't have an MBA. I didn't know how to build a business. The first time we went to a major retailer, the retailer was asking me for EDI and UPCs and
Hmm.
SBS, and I didn't understand a word they were saying. And it was very much learn as you go. And we spent the first part of our building Green Goo very much in fight or flight, just
Mm.
constantly solving the problem. For me, resilience was you push through, you push through.
Yeah.
And where the plot really thickens is here we were 98% retail, and the pandemic happens, and all of a
Oh yeah.
sudden, no one's going into stores because if you had poison ivy, you went to your local pharmacy, and that's where you got your Green Goo. And so we had to
Yeah.
pivot very quickly to create an online business. And our team just did a beautiful job of making that happen. And we didn't have to let go of a single employee, but it was tough. And there were times we were shipping boxes till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, including my mom and dad, including my in-laws, baby in tow. And we got through that. And we recognized that as a family company, we were not going to be able to continue to bootstrap and insulate risk because the bigger companies were able to navigate that in a
Yeah.
much more resilient way. And so we started looking for investment partners and so forth. And the short version of this part of the story is that we found an investment group where we folded our company into theirs. So we weren't going
Mm.
anywhere, but we didn't own it anymore. And shortly after we did that, they faced legal and financial troubles.
Oh
And
wow. Wow.
essentially, the company fell apart. And I had less than
Oh.
24 hours to terminate my entire team. My
Oh my
mom,
God.
my sister,
Oh
my
my God.
my husband, employee number one, all these people that we had fought to save in this. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden my purpose is gone and we are not sure how we're going to survive financially
Yeah.
and quite honestly emotionally.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're at the table after all the tears and I put on my lip balm and then I look at my mom and I'm like, how much Green Goo do you have left? Because production has completely stopped.
Right.
And we all start calibrating, or taking inventory. And then at the same time, we're getting emails from my mom is a diabetic. This is the only thing that works for her wound care. My son is a paraplegic. This is the only thing that works. When are we going to
Mm.
get your products back? And we looked at each other and we said, we're going to buy this company back. We're going to do it. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden, for me, from a leadership perspective, all the things that I knew fighting to build the company was not what needed to happen today. And I recognized for the first time that I was only operating at maybe a third of my optimal performance. And suddenly
Yeah.
it was getting present and being instead of doing so that we could navigate this next chapter. And it's just been such a gift from a leadership perspective because now I have a whole new way of how we operate our business and with such greater intention. And so full circle to your point, like all the things that you've done that have led you to this moment, it's been really incredible because now I help other entrepreneurs not only strategically navigate these kinds of things, but emotionally to develop high performance acumen as a leader and as a human being.
Yeah.
And and then weaving that into the psychoneuroimmunology of the mind body relationship. So yes, Green Goo started to reinvent first aid, but now
Mm.
our mission is even greater in terms of educating the consumer of the relationship our skin has with our overall wellness and longevity, and feeding and nourishing that skin while eliminating and avoiding other chemicals that are putting our nervous system into a state of fight or flight every day. And so it's just been a beautiful and turbulent journey to get to this point. And I'm so grateful to be able to continue to share Green Goo in so many different facets.
Well, as I've seen talking to so many people over these last 3 seasons, so many of us are forced to reinvent ourselves many times over, right? And your story is great, and I really thank you for sharing that because it will inspire a lot of people. Similar, started my first company in 2011, nutrition fitness. Things were going great. Got hit with a divorce I never saw coming. It blew up the finances. Had to hit a hard reset on everything. So I became a single dad overnight and had no family in Florida. It was just me. And so stopped what I was doing. I was a professional actor, stopped going to LA, stopped doing everything and focus on these two kids and making sure that I'm present for them and building a life around them. And I would take them on my sessions on personal training. They would just come with me. I would just drag them with me because I had no other choice. And then I got some roles in TV and film. They're coming with me. So we all just had a little caravan. And then COVID hit, and then pivot to creating online business. And then being living in small, tiny apartments just to save money and just to make sure that we're building for the future. And now we're here, where it's just like the long-term vision is coming to light, and you just reinvent yourself, and you realize life happens for you, not to you, right?
Exactly. There's a gift
Yeah.
and opportunity. And I love that I want to underscore that life happens to you, or excuse me, for you, not to you. And when you can shift that mindset, all of a sudden it's so much more expansive. There's so
Yeah.
much more creativity, navigation, curiosity. And I love that your children were at the heartbeat of that, because the halo effect of them
Hmm.
being in your presence, of being present and doing that work, has such a positive impact on the people around you.
Well, yeah, because we serve as inspiration to others, and they're watching me navigate this world and not going, "Oh my God, I'm a victim of my circumstance," right? And they see that over and over and over, and they'll see me upset from time to time, but they just know that I'm going to take a deep breath, relax, and go, "Guess what? Our worst days, we survived, so we're still batting 1,000. We're doing okay. We'll be all right."
This is so good. My daughter the other day, she goes, "Mom, you're not going to believe what happened to me." And I was like, "What?" She's like, I got done taking my test and the teacher said, "Hey, I need to talk to you," and pulled her aside. And she's like, "Oh no, I'm in so much trouble." And he was like, "I was watching you take your test and I noticed some things." And she's like, "Oh no." She's like, he goes, "You really got present and you rubbed your
Mm.
fingertips together. You took a couple deep breaths and then you went in and started working the problems that you did know, skipped the ones you didn't, and then came back and again got present and worked through the ones you didn't know. And I just want to applaud you for doing that." And she goes, "Mom, it was like I was talking to you." And I was like, "That's so great." And she didn't even recognize that she was doing that. And that
Yeah.
was really neat. And I think about, if children can be exposed to some of these, back to those nervous system hacks that can
Yeah.
help build that confidence and that clarity in that moment, like what a gift. And then all of a sudden, all these things that are happening for you just continue to blossom into greater goodness. And it's a wonderful world.
Well, it's such a joy doing this podcast and the show because, I go into these podcasts thinking, okay, we're going to talk about this and this and this, and it's always a good conversation. But then somebody mentioned something that totally resonates with me, which is about being present. And I think that's so amazing. I took the kids to the Himalayas last year in January for the first time because I grew up in India and I wanted to go up to North India. And we had the opportunity to sit and chant with monks in a Tibetan monastery high up in the mountains. And for 2.5 minutes is the most peaceful I've ever been in my life. And then I've got these two kids, twins, boy and girl, and they were 13 at the time. And I've never seen them so present in what they were doing. And I said, "Don't you feel just centered and calm?" And they said, "Yeah, we feel really, really good." Right. And so we try to relive that moment. So anytime we're stressed out, take a deep breath, relax, and then just progress forward. So
Mm.
yeah.
I love that so much. And it gave them something that's tangible for them to revisit and know what that feels like outside
Yeah.
of that setting in order to continue to achieve that. And I always call it with my daughter, I don't know what else to say. I'm like, that muscle, you have to work out, that presence muscle. Because the
Yeah.
more you do that throughout the day, those small moments, you will begin to recognize that when you are in a high stress situation, you're able to get to that place quicker. So the same way you work out at the gym physically, you want to do
Mhm.
that same intention in building that presence muscle. So I really appreciate that. Thank
Well,
you.
from a medical standpoint, you can appreciate this. I've had the honor of being in the presence of Navy SEALs, and these guys are very advanced warfighters, tip of the spear, U.S. military. And here's the one thing they do: they taught me box breathing. So I asked them the question. I said, in a high stress environment, people are trying to kill you. They're trying to shoot you. What do you do to stay calm? They said, we turn off our sympathetic nervous system. And how do you do that? Box breathing, for a breath in for 4 seconds, a breath out for 4 seconds. And what they realized is they said it's different for everybody. And I tried that. It took me exactly 28 breaths of doing that. You flood the brain with oxygen, so you kind of get high on your own supply. And there's nothing but calm and positivity. So I do that
Mm.
every morning. And there's other methods, like there's the Wim Hof method, the guy who dives into the ice, right? There's other methods, but I really love the box breathing I learned from these guys. And it just calms you down. You can see more clearly, you can focus, you can do so many things because you're being present. It gets you present, right? So,
Thank you for that. And that's why I love having conversations like this. This is beautiful. Now I can add that to my toolbox.
yeah, no, it is. It's so, we've heard it so many years, so many, ancient, Eastern philosophy, just breathe. And people are like, what does that mean? I can tell you, they're right.
Well,
Just
and I
breathe.
just breathe. And I think it can be so intimidating. When I first started this sort of presence journey was I thought my interpretation was if I don't sit and meditate for 2 hours, I'm not going to achieve this higher
Mm,
level of being that everyone talks about. And it was so great when we went through the company crisis and I had just hired a coach. And so we were very early in the relationship. And so I had to call him and say, hey, Monday to me, like, I'm not showing up. I can't pay you. And
mm,
he's like, what's going on, Jodi? And very briefly, and he's like, you show up Monday at 5, I'll be there for you every day, Monday at 5. And I really appreciated that. But in that moment, when you have paralysis, someone can do
yeah.
something very nice for you, and you still can't find that motivation to show up. And
Mm,
that Monday came and I was like, I'm not going to go. And then I just was
mm.
overburdened with guilt. And I thought, he's a nice guy. Just at least show up and just say thank you, but no thank you. This was really nice. And he starts the conversation and he's like, you ready for your presence boot camp? And I was like, what are you saying? And he's like, you're going to set your alarm every 3 hours and you're going to do a presence exercise, 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And you're going to do that. And we're going to build this muscle for you so that you can go and get your company back and not be overwhelmed with the anxiety, the depression, the shoulda, woulda, the what's
Yeah.
going to happen in the future, and just build this muscle. And I thought, I'm going to set my alarm for 3 hours and I'm going to do what? He's like, you're going to go listen to the birds for 30 seconds. And I thought, you're nuts. And when I started doing that, all of a sudden 30 seconds turned into that 2 minutes. And then
Yeah.
I started to crave it and I could feel the shift. And then I would be put into stressful situations and I could find myself being able to go back to that moment quicker. And today, I don't set my alarm every 3 hours, but throughout the day, I make very intentional decisions to be able to bring myself back to presence to continue working on that muscle. And it's been incredible. And the data shows, back to the science, you don't have to do it for 2 hours to get those results. Your cortisol drops, your inflammation
Yes.
drops, your clarity comes forward. And again, it's back to a very expansive state of being that is good for your body.
Well, I think we get trapped in influencer culture. A lot of people do. I'm a child of the 80s. I'm a Gen Xer. And you know what that means is that we were hyper independent from day one. We were just taught that way, right? My children are very different. And I have to respect that. I have to understand where they're coming from. But that being said, I always tell them that what I went through, because they saw it and we talk about it because now they're older, they're 14, I can have honest conversations. And they're like, we didn't know you were going through all this stuff. We just knew that, yeah, dad's a little bit in his thoughts right now, but we didn't know. And they said, why didn't you tell us? I said, because I was going to figure it out. I just knew that it's happening for me. And I just kept telling myself that it's happening for me. It's happening for me. It's happening for me. And so down the road, when something comes in my path, I say I'm a problem solver. I'm not an entertainer. I solve problems all day. That's just what I do, right? Guess what? I'm just equipped to deal with it, just like you now, which is you think about this. I'm listening to your story, and I know so many other people are going to be listening to this. You are a much better CEO now than when you first started because you had to go through it, right? And that was the other point you brought up, which is we can read about it, we can talk about it, we can watch a million videos about it, but you have to go through it. That's the only way to really get the benefit of it,
You
right?
do.
And
Mm.
and the other thing is, guess what? Pressure is a privilege. That means you're doing something right, right? Now
So
imagine a
true.
life, imagine a life where there's no pressure and there's no deadlines, there's nothing, and you're just kind of sitting there going, okay, what do I do? Right? No purpose,
Right.
right? So I heard that from somebody. Pressure is a privilege. I was like, I'm gonna add that
I'm gonna add that one.
one.
We do a lot of presence, purpose, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and present, purpose, and plants. That's like one of our mantras. Which you brought up something that I thought would be fun to share too, especially with our children, and how
Yes.
to distill it down in a way that we can really integrate. And
Yep.
so we have a acronym that we use in our house called Shaman. And this
Oh,
allows my daughter and even myself, all of us, to be able to just kind of navigate throughout the day to find presence and this kind of whole body experience. So S is for sleep, adding to the sleep
okay.
bank, so that she can have a really
Yeah.
mindful relationship with her sleep if she's pushing it to go, okay, I'm calibrating here that I need to add to the sleep bank. And we can all relate to that.
Yes. Oh yeah.
H, H is hydration. We are water. And
Hmm.
so, really recognizing that about ourselves. So, it's not just the water that we drink, but it's also the things that may be pulling water out of our system and thinking about, is this really serving me? Or foods that I could be eating that are rich in hydration, or even the skincare products that we put. Are they pulling water out, or are we adding that nutritional skincare, that hydration? And then
Hmm.
A is antioxidants. So when you open up the fridge and you're like, well, which one's really going to better serve me? And the other day it was cute. My daughter and I, we had carrots, grapes, and some chips. We put the chips on it, but we made sure that we also balanced it out. And it's like,
Yeah.
especially for kids, they're just inundated with all these options. And it's like, okay, maybe I'll choose this here because it's going to serve me better. And again, it's back to that notion of getting to a place where our mind and our body are working together for presence because
Yeah.
these other things pull us from that. M is mindfulness and just taking those
Nice.
mindful moments throughout the day, those little micro moments, whether it's feeling your feet on the ground, watching the horizon, look at the clouds move, listen to the birds, as Timmy would
Yeah.
say, take those
Yeah.
breaths. And then A is avoid, and this was a really good one for my daughter as well. And I think all of us, entrepreneurs, leaders, parents, is that we're in this place where we're constantly being inundated. And sometimes we can't do all the things right. Like they told me I need to do 100 things to be healthy and I need to have all these stacking
Mm.
habits. Sometimes just avoiding certain ingredients, avoiding situations,
Yep.
avoiding some people, like really preserving and protecting your time. And then
Yeah.
N is nature. And nature, this has been good for my daughter as well. Am I going to scroll on my phone for 10 minutes or am I going to go outside? Because nature is such an incredible reset and gets you present very quickly. And so
Yeah.
we use that acronym a lot, and it's just a fun, playful North Star in our day. But you'll find that you can default to that when you are being overwhelmed with potential choices throughout the day.
No, that's so amazing because I think we share similar values. Like we do what's called the Japanese call it forest bathing. We walk in
Oh.
nature, you know? So that's a Japanese term they use. And so we do that, try to do that every evening, and we stay away from our phones. But I love that what you're doing, whether or not you know it, is that you are developing a future CEO, somebody who's super resilient, somebody who hopefully will take over, mom's shoes or choose a different path, right? You never know, but it's developing these leadership principles that they can take with them in any field, right?
So true. And that in itself, the halo effect that happens makes for better leadership, makes for a better world. And so I really appreciate you leaning in there and I hope more people can think about not only the work that they do for themselves, but the impact it'll have on people around them and that ripple effect.
Yeah. So talk to me real quick about what's the next step for you on your journey. You are a very successful CEO who's navigated so many challenges, which is amazing. We love these kind of stories. And then the company had the tipping point, but you guys found a way around and pushed through. Where's the company at now? Where's it going? What's your next step in the process of your journey?
As it relates to the company, we just continue to share that there is a plant-based solution that is superior in efficacy for first aid and really cleaning out your first aid cabinet, simplifying your life, avoiding these chemicals, giving awareness on how these endocrine disruptors or harmful ingredients that are hurting the environment that we don't need. And I don't think, in all fairness, the Industrial Revolution never intended to hurt anyone. They were just a part of our
Yeah.
human development and making mass production available to people and this idea that more value meant more volume, so we needed to fill it with a bunch of fillers. And of course today we've got Amazon, we've got same day shipping, we've
Oh,
got
yeah.
technology, we have transportation. It's just a different world. And so now that transparency empowers us to evolve this understanding. And it just gives me such joy. Like the other day I had a customer who her daughter had been on steroids for over a year and just
Mhm.
wasn't getting the eczema relief. And she goes, I've never used a natural product, but I heard through the grapevine. So I want you to know I'm coming in with a lot of self-doubt. But we're not sleeping. She hasn't slept. She's
Yeah.
miserable. I'm willing to give it a try. We gave her a regimen and she took pictures on the first day. And then by week two, she's now just working through the scarring and using our repair formula for the scarring. She's like, I absolutely cannot believe this. And so, she bringing this education and information around how we can help that skin barrier. And then for me personally as well, bringing that education forward of how we can take nutritional skincare and enhance our wellness journey and this mind body relationship for optimal performance as individuals and happiness. I think there's just so many nuggets there. And the data, one fun example, I came across some new research that came out that, our telomeres are the end caps of our DNA. And obviously they
Right.
measure our longevity. And once those telomeres start to fall apart, then so does our DNA. And a new study came out that calendula flowers, which is one of our favorite flowers in all of our formulas, is stimulates the enzyme in your epidermal layer that regenerates our telomeres. So we're just starting to get
Oh,
more nuggets like this on
yeah.
that relationship. And so I just sink into that so that I can share that with folks and how they can use products like Green Goo to be a vehicle for presence. One of my favorite things to teach people is Sanctuary Sunday. And you salve up very much like Jane Doe number one taught us. And you pick your salve of choice and you put your bathrobe on and you let your skin just drink it up and have an
Mm,
intentional moment. Sit outside on the porch, listen to the birds, read a book, do something that really brings you presence during that 30 minutes while your
right.
skin is drinking up all of this nutrition. And then go start your day or go end your day, however that works. And you will literally feel the difference. And so giving people these unlocks for me is just very passionate and then continuing to help entrepreneurs, leaders, parents, because again, you brought up a really great point of these trials and tribulations that are gifted to us. Me buying back the company and going through that crisis is not going to be the hardest thing I've ever done and ever will
Yeah.
do. But now I've got this special toolbox and I've evolved myself. And I really would love to invite people to be able to experience that so that when they're going through a chronic illness or a death of a loved one and some of these other really, really difficult times, that they're able to find these resources and find the greatest joy that they can in this time that we are here. Um, so for me, that's really important, and I'm really excited about it and grateful.
No, this is so, and that's right there. Being grateful about every opportunity, every challenge, every setback, and I don't think we look at that setbacks and obstacles and say, I'm grateful, but I learned how to do that now because they redirect us to a better path. It always does. As long as you allow and let go and release and just follow the journey, I've become much more aware and existential about my journey and just allowing things to happen rather than trying to force outcomes. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I love the whole story behind what you do, the products you've created. And in turn, not only did you birth a product, you are teaching your daughter, you're inspiring a whole new generation of CEOs and entrepreneurs because this is not for the faint of heart, this entrepreneurial journey. It's just not, right? And I can tell you one thing though, you'll find more joy, more value in this journey than in anything else. And the reason why I say that is that, real quickly, when I was in corporate America, I was making good money, like really good money, but there was an emptiness inside me, meaning I would go to the store and literally could buy anything. And when Best Buy was a thing, right? I'd go to Best Buy and be like, I want that TV. I'd get it, bring back home, and then 5 minutes later, I'd be like, why did I buy this? Right? So there's this void in me, which I didn't have a purpose, right? And now I know what my purpose is. And to be able to work towards that every single day and really help people, oh, there's the joy right there. And then the money will follow as it does with anything you do with passion, right? So,
Truly. I'm
yeah.
just drinking that up. Truly. What a gift.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, no. This is the reason why we're talking is that I love talking to people who've been so inspirational in their path. So you and I could keep talking for a very long time, which I would love to. But this is the section of our show which is called the shameless plug, which is I would love for you to share with our audience where we can find you, how they can interact with you, how they can get a hold of you, and your product. So please tell us websites, social media, what's next for you. If you're speaking, if you got a book coming out, please tell us all that.
Oh, well, go to greengoo.com. Get rid of all that yuck in your first aid cabinet. Go replace it with the first aid bundle. It's all you need, 4 products, and it's going to get you everything that you need. And you can find us on social media at Green Goo Helps. That's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, Jodi Scott. Please reach out. I love, love, love having direct communication. Matter of fact, when we send our retention marketing emails, they come from my email. Customers will respond every once in a while and they'll go, and then I respond, and they're like, wait a minute, I didn't really expect that you would respond. And you bet I do. And it's one of my greatest joys. So please,
Yeah.
please do reach out and let's get you all sanctuary Sundayed out so that you can really feel that difference and start that presence journey and that relationship with your skin. And couple of things. My mom and I wrote some children's books, so
Nice.
we are in the
Nice.
process of bringing those out. She's illustrating them, and the goal where they kind of came from was when I would make up stories for my daughter going to bed, I would weave in these various presents sound bites, but I didn't actually know that I was doing it at the time. It was really interesting. It was like this subconscious desire for
Mm.
presence. And as it evolved, both my daughter and I came to kind of like full circle and we were like, wow, this is like so special and magical. And it was really my daughter was like, Mom, kids need to have this so that they can have their invitation to presence. And
Yeah.
so we've got a trio coming out in the spring, and so I'll be excited to share those with everyone.
Nice. No, so this is amazing. All these incredible things you're doing. And I think one of the things I didn't realize I was going to take away from this conversation, which I just did. So I worked in corporate America, as people know, and I did a podcast with another person probably about 3 weeks ago. And she was pro corporate America in a very healthy manner. And I was anti corporate America, right? Because I came from that world. But you being a CEO, what I took away from this conversation, which I didn't expect to, honestly, was that your journey is so similar to everyday people, what they go through, right? And so we look at CEOs, they're like, oh, they had it handed to them, and oh, they had this handed to them, and they nepotism or whatever you want to call it. We give every excuse in the book as to why they're there. But people realize that no, you went through the journey. You went through, took the punches, got back up, fell down 100 times, got up 101 times, and you are where you are. And now you have the foresight to go, I'm going to send emails personally. And that's amazing. That's a good thing, by the way. So I
Thank
applaud you for
you.
that. That's which is fantastic. But thank you again for this conversation. I think so many people will get so much out of it. I'm so happy to have met you and interact with you and hopefully continue a great friendship with you. That being
Thank you.
said, yeah, this podcast will come out a week from now. And so our audience will be super excited. And for our audience, we are in season 3 of our show. We're in pre-production right now. We're in pre-production for season 2. And our podcast is going to continue on throughout the year. We are going to hit all the streaming channels in the next few months. So we're really excited about that. Add 99 million additional homes on top of the 150 million homes on PBS. So a lot of great things are coming down the road. And season 3 is very ambitious. So thank you to our audience for listening. Thank you one more time, Jodi. Really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. And tune in for another episode of our podcast of Recipe for Wellness. Thank you again.